Part 1. The Shift of the Seas. Many of those who remained living on the planet Earth could still remember the days when the oceans shifted towards the poles and when the sea levels rose, higher seemingly before their eyes, but certainly within a generation. For the citizens of the planet, their memory of the water shifting was real and recent, and even years and decades later, many would recall the Great Shift. It became dinner table talk, bedtime stories. Those who were too young to remember the period of the Great Shift were told of the days when the wave came. In those days it was when the mass exodus from the northern states was plastered over every news channel, every blog, throughout the internet, and on every street corner. In the years during which the shift took place, and as the rotation of the Earth slowed, the coastal population was forced to relocate to inland cities. Those in the northern hemisphere, and equally so in the southern hemisphere, would relocate a short distance from their previous coastal residence, and then, several years later, would be forced to move once again as the sea crept closer and closer to the population. As the planet slowed even further, and it became inevitable for those located nearest to the poles that their cities were slowly being inundated and swallowed by the Earth's waters, it came to a point that entire countries had to be abandoned as great cities were reclaimed by Mother Nature. The people of the planet recalled watching in horror as the waters retreated from the tropical zones and spilled towards the north. It wasn't until the northern cities were completely swallowed and each metropolis would fall into memory and would lie beneath vast depths of seawater that the inhabitants of the remaining dry areas towards the equator felt the twinge of uncertainty. Until then, when the cities were lost, it had simply been disbelief. Some cities like Atlanta or Rome, with a more southerly location, were not spared entirely from the assault of the waters, but the skyscrapers and some crests on taller buildings rose from the sea. Those cities were partially inundated and still abandoned. Others, closer to the poles, were completely submerged, under a mile of water in some cases, and sentenced to decompose in a watery grave. London, New York, Toronto, and Moscow all were lost. Santiago, Sydney, Cape Town, all under water. Forever. The cities closest to the equator were also not spared, for there, where there had once been oceans, now faded away to new, vast swathes of land as new arid deserts were born on a massive supercontinent which reached around the centre of the planet, spanning the equator. Once tropical zones, the land was no longer fertile, nor was it habitable. It was a harsh, sandy landscape with a blistering, relentless sun. The failing troposphere caused increasing radiation levels in these areas during sunlight. The levels lowered during darkness. The supercontinent was devoid of water, for the seas which had once surrounded cities like Havana and Mumbai had flowed towards the poles. Areas that had once had healthy water tables experienced extreme dry conditions. Muddy swamps became sandy deserts as the face of the land changed as the ocean retreated. The phenomenon which created new inland cities, once coastal communities blessed with sea breezes, now were landlocked, dry and hot, many miles from the nearest water, and the air, which had thinned tremendously in the centre regions of the planet, became unbreathable as the atmospheric layer of gases which once blanketed the planet faded. For the sun, once a harbinger of warmth and sustenance, shined at such a ferocity as to cook any mammal or reptile and serve as a catalyst for radiation from a dying sun heading towards supernova. Millions perished around the world, either by drowning, asphyxiation, or starvation. There were some that heeded the apocalyptic warnings. Many others maintained a sense of complacency. The newscasts barked almost constantly about the impending doom, but until the water spilled over the shores of the coasts, and until the radiation had been felt and measured through a decomposing atmosphere, the people of the planet ignored the problem, until the problem became insurmountable. It was not a cinematic horror like on the film medium. People did not tear into the streets and burn up in the sun. Their skin did not boil or slither off their bones, nor burn and char, but the population was forced to abandon the cities closest to the equator and develop cities beneath the surface of the planet.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.